Good evening and welcome to the Tibet Center. So we'll start tonight reading the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West, which you'll find in the FAQ section, scrolling down on the tibetcenter.org. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to supreme truth. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisattva. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering with gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Regenerate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, let's do one rosary of Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So, Om Mani Padme Hum, as we know, is the mantra of compassion, and compassion, His Holiness constantly refers to compassion as the essence of an ethical way of life. And compassion is not necessarily religious, it's not necessarily Buddhist. It's really an essential quality that, in Darwin's theory of the survival of the fittest and evolution, it is all these traits that enable a species to defend itself and maintain its place in its environment that enables it to survive. Usually it's to do with being ferocious, it's to do with, or particular physical characteristics that evolve over long amounts of time that enable that particular mutation, which is a benefit to the being, to then develop within a species. And His Holiness introduced the idea that compassion could also be a survival trait, that compassion could be a way, an element within a Darwinian theory of evolution. In that compassion is what enables communities, communities to survive. It's an element necessary for a community of whatever the species is to survive. Anyway, compassion is that element that, let's say, the core element of ethical, moral behavior, moral comportment that he introduces as being beyond religion and secular, in the way that he uses the word secular, which is secular is often non-religious, but in India secular means religious as well as non-religious. So compassion, the reason that we recite Om Mani Padme Hum is to cultivate this quality that, though the mantra is a Buddhist mantra, is a quality that really pervades all, not just humanity, but all sentience. Okay, so sentience, so we have to be careful here. One of the debates between the Buddhists and the Hindus has to do with whether plants are sentient beings. And the Buddhist attitude is that a plant may be sentient, but it is not a sentient being. A plant doesn't have a sense of self the way a mosquito does, the way a fly does, and the way we do. A plant reacts, but without that sort of core feeling of me. No, we're listening in on you. So, where did we get last time? Today is the April 21st. Was that the 20? Is today the 28th?
Yeah.
Oh.
28th.
Okay, so we were talking about. We've been discussing emotions and afflictive emotions. In other words, emotions that cause us suffering. And in Buddhism, they are considered to be our greatest enemy. What a practitioner is working at doing is diminishing these afflictive emotions or tendencies, such as selfishness, self-grasping, anger, pride, jealousy, all these things that when we engage in them, they cause us, they cause others around us to suffer, but they cause us difficulties. So that's why they're referred to as afflictive emotions. But what His Holiness is introducing is that they also have they have qualities that they are not inherently bad. They do stem from, they have qualities that enable us to survive better. So that's, we were talking about how attachment helps you protect a family, create a family. Anger can protect us from things that attack us, and etc. So, His Holiness puts emotions into categories, and on page 122, he talks about the emotion families. So one helpful approach to understanding our destructive emotions is to view them as related families, distinguished by the kind of underlying state of mind they involve. For example, as I said, the emotions of the larger families, such as hatred, enmity, malice, are characterized by an exaggerated repulsion, while those of the attachment family, such as greed, lust, and craving, are characterized by an equally exaggerated sense of attraction. The other main families of afflictive emotion, envy, pride, doubt, involve mixtures of excessive attraction on the one hand, such as the excessive attraction to a deluded self-image in the case of pride, and an excessive repulsion on the other, such as the excessive sense of enmity towards a rival in the case of envy. As we have already seen, in addition to this element of excessive revulsion or attraction, or unhealthy mixture of the two, all the afflictive emotions are further characterized by an unrealistic or deluded perspective. Now here, the perspective that's talked about relates back to what His Holiness said he had discussed with this Dr. Aaron Beck, who said that when we get angry, according to this doctor, about 90% of our frustration with someone or with some situation comes from our side, rather than being warranted from whatever it is that's making us angry. And in last week's discussion, we were suggesting that maybe we could augment that. You had said 99%, I think, and we went up to 100. So at 100%, I mean, the 100 involved karma. In order for the, it had to do with responsibility for, or the situation, and or our warranting or our deserving this situation comes from us. If we include the whole idea that if we include the laws of karma. Anyway, so all afflictive emotions are further characterized by an unrealistic or deluded perspective. Now, I think, do you have any, I had read, and I think I wrote it down here, there is a quote from Tsongkhapa and from Chandrakirti about the fact that this unrealistic or deluded perspective, further characterized by an unrealistic and deluded perspective, the idea that when we have attachment or when we have anger or whatever, that emotion or that mental attitude that we have is based not on the object, but on the image of the object that appears to us. The object is having some kind of intrinsic reality. It is that image that does not exist, that we imagine, and that actually appears to us. It is towards that we have attachment or aversion or whatever the emotion is. I'll read that to you because I think it's interesting. So this is Chandrakirti. Attachment and so forth superimpose features such as attractiveness or unattractiveness only upon the intrinsic nature of things that ignorance has superimposed. So in other words, that attachment and so forth are not actually towards the object itself, they are towards this intrinsic nature that appears. That ignorance, our ignorance, has superimposed on the object. And Tsongkhapa then explains this. Ignorance superimposes an intrinsic nature on things. From this, attachment, hostility, and so forth arise. Further, the superimposing features, such as attractiveness or unattractiveness, upon that intrinsic nature, furthermore, superimposing features such as attractiveness and unattractiveness. So it's all from our side. I mean, if we look at it from what Chandrakirti is saying and what Tsongkhapa is saying, the idea is that all of our emotions of attraction or aversion come not towards the object. And this is, I repeat this because I think this is really helpful. We go through life so pulled in one direction or wanting to avoid something or avoid a person or whatever. And though we are going to continue to do so, if we can, in our analytical meditation, actually consider the fact that it is not the object that's attracting me, it's the appearance of the object in this unreal way that I'm attached to, that begins to diffuse our attachment. Does that make sense?
Say it again.
It is when we are drawn to something, when we are attached, we say, oh, look at that, that's beautiful, I really like whatever it is. Or a person. It's not the object, whether human or whether, a thing. It's the appearance of the object in that sort of intrinsically or inherently existent form. It is that we have, that the emotion of attachment is towards. It's not the sort of, all right, I'm really going to break it down to, if we saw the sort of blood and guts quality of the person we might be attracted to, and if we saw the, all the sort of emotions rushing about, the afflicted thought patterns and whatever, and we, without putting it together in that nice, beautiful package, we might not have the desire, the attachment that we have. The attachment comes when we put together the elements and see that as having some intrinsically beautiful quality. First of all, we see it as existing in some inherent way, and then we see these characteristics as existing inherently within that object of desire. None of those qualities exist inherently. They're all imputed by me. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder is such a profound statement. So,
That said it.
sorry?
You said it.
Yeah? There are no remarks from outer space? Darren? No?
Sorry?
There are no remarks? We're not getting any...
Not yet, no. Is it
Good evening. Sorry?
it also the case that just even the mere existence of the object is also imputed?
Might be. Okay, we're discussing. Well, what are we discussing? Bring David up to speed here.
So for attraction, right?
Yeah.
So like for example, like a nice woman, nice man, right? So when we first look at the face, we're oh so handsome, whatever, right? But when we like as you said, break it up, you know, when you see the mucus, the urines of the blood inside, so maybe that is the way to like the antidote of the attraction, the attachment.
So it helps.
Yeah.
That's not the real. You have to go farther than that. Merely saying, you know, like peeling off the skin and thinking, that's the beginning. You eventually have to see that that the whole identification of that person as so and so comes from me. It's if we talk about the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates that make up a person. Who knows the 5 skandhas? Form, feeling, perception.
Volition and consciousness.
Okay, so there's compositional factors, and there's discrimination. So the whole idea is that we are made up of all these. The Buddha talked about aggregates, skandhas, and heaps is one way of translating the word skandha, but it's an aggregation of parts, so that all the parts that make us up are aggregations of parts, and there's the physical, all the parts that physically make us up, and then there are the different aspects of the mind, the mental aspects of feelings and discriminations and these compositional factors that include all these afflictive emotions, and then the consciousness, clarity and knowing. So all of those things make up a person. And so when I see you, I'm actually imputing your presence upon those 5 aggregates. So we can't just peel the skin away and see the blood and guts and all that. We have to actually come to see that there is no you there.
So that means the five sense that we have is in ignorance, no wisdom inside, right?
I don't know that you would say there's no wisdom inside. You would say that there is no independently existent unity there. There's not a person there. There are all these parts upon which I impute a person.
Or maybe when we see whoever, you know, there is based on the karma that each to like, you know.
But we do it for ourselves too. So when I look at Leong, there are a bunch of parts that together I say that's Leong. But every moment of my life, as I think of Nikki, it's this idea based on a bunch of parts that I impute some kind of a selfness to, and I believe that it exists. I'm sure it exists, actually. It's the center of the universe, right here. And we all feel the same way. But if we really look among the parts, we're not going to find that center. We're not going to find anything. Okay. So, envy is a somewhat complex family of afflictions, since its root lies in attachment and attraction, yet it also has strong elements of anger, hostility, and repulsion. Recent scientific research on happiness has found that one of the primary sources of discontentment in today's world, especially in the more affluent societies, is our human tendency to compare ourselves to those around us. Fundamentally, this comes down to the problem of envy. So the reason that we go through all these different afflictions this way, these emotional qualities or tendencies, is that the more we understand them, the more we're able to control them. So the process of identifying them in theory or in general, and then identifying them within ourselves helps us develop the ability to refrain from engaging in them. The muscle of restraint must be developed. It won't just happen. We have to really see that envy causes me to be unhappy. Envy works like this. Envy has these characteristics. And if we really familiarize ourselves with those, when we find ourselves envious, we can look at it, we can sort of disassemble it and smile. So, the afflictive family of pride or conceit, which includes destructive attitudes such as arrogance, prejudice, and even obsessive or unrealistic embarrassment, also involves a mixture of attraction and repulsion. Attraction, for example, towards an unrealistic or deluded self-image, and repulsion or disdain towards anyone or anything that threatens that cherished self-image. This attachment to an inflated self-image, whether based on social status, accomplishment, or the circumstances of our birth, may prompt us to actions that are disrespectful of others, and such actions are destruction both for the welfare of others and ourselves. So, do you have any comments or questions as we go along? I'm just talking, I'm sorry.
So I'm getting stuck a little bit on that right now, and I'd love for you to talk about that more. If we take it apart and the person doesn't exist, at the end, it's our imputation, our own imputation, what prevents us then from hurting that person? That person isn't there.
Hurting that person.
Or worse.
So, as we work at decomposing, we also have to work at understanding that just as I wish to be happy, that person wishes to be happy. So we're also trying to develop some kind of concern for them and love for them and compassion towards them. But we also recognize that that which we have attachment for doesn't exist the way we think it does. So what's the problem?
Well, it's really I'm not sure in the terminology, but really if in the quintessence that we're concluding that the person doesn't exist. We're imputing our view onto that phenomenon and
Doesn't exist inherently.
right.
There is a conventionally existent
Right.
person.
Yeah, that's it. Right.
Leong exists here.
Right.
I think that's why we, because they are, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not literally saying there's nothing or nobody there. We're just saying that the distinctions that we're observing that make us attracted to or desire them, those are an illusion of our perception. But there's a person there who we should not hurt, I think.
Right, yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally see that. I'm curious in the construct on in one hand, with the sunflower, we're taking the sunflower apart, we're taking the petals apart, etc. We come to the conclusion it doesn't exist.
But there's still a sunflower there.
I think it's different to say it's not findable than to say it doesn't exist.
I think just not distinguishable. I think it's you know. I think the mind wants to distinguish everything as you know, good or bad, better or worse, desirable or slightly desirable or super desirable. I think it's the distinctions that trips the mind up. I think everything exists.
But we're doing the analysis on the basis of distinction, of making distinctions.
Yeah.
So we have to give some credence to the distinctions.
I think to be functional in life, but then I think but to be at peace, then we have to remove the distinctions.
So what do you mean by distinctions?
The distinctions that make a particular person or thing desirable,
Oh, okay.
that then creates that desire that we're, you know.
So the things, would you say that the things that make that particular person or thing desirable exist in the thing?
No, I think that's the falsehood. I think that's the illusion. I think that's the illusion of the mind. That's the projection. Using the word distinction as the distinction to distinguish between like true nothingness and inside of all of us and the idea of nothingness, the idea of there being nothing there is really the thing that we are perceiving on the surface is what is not there. That is not really there. But the person is there, their soul is there, right? They can bleed, they can cry, they feel. That's why we don't hurt them. You know? Their vulnerabilities are there, but there are qualities that we exalt.
Maybe they have qualities we can exalt.
Well, then we have to envy them, or desire. But then that kind of legitimizes the envy or desire. Those qualities are real.
So these are things to think about. These are things to read about. But this, what I just read of Tsongkhapa is the whole idea that what we are developing attraction towards is not the object itself, but the appearance of the object as existing in some kind of intrinsic way. And, you know, we shouldn't just go on the fact that Tsongkhapa said it or that Chandrakirti said it, we should think about it and test it over time as we, look at a tree and say, oh, that's a beautiful tree. Out where we live, there are all these magnificent trees. All right, so each time you see one of those, what magnolias is that, or cherries or whatever,
Cherry blossoms, yeah.
you see the tree, and then if you think about what does it mean that when I'm seeing this beautiful tree, my attraction, my thinking, oh, this is beautiful, is based not on the tree itself, but on this image that appears to me as having some kind of characteristic. And test it out. That's what we have to do.
Could that energy exist without a tree?
This is sort of like when the tree falls.
Well, yeah, I mean, just devil's advocate, one could argue with their own neurotic mind that, okay, well, it's not the tree's qualities, it's the images they're projecting, but whatever, I'm still, okay, that still is what I'm labeling as beautiful, and so is it any different in the end,
Yes, I think that the analysis itself will diminish our sort of mad attachment to something.
Yeah, when I think about my own experience on this question, you mentioned the idea that there's a distinction and there would be some maybe unavoidable justification for envy or some other reaction to it. Kind of the way I understand what you'd be saying, it's almost that the envy is bound up in it. And so you can see the tree in its actual physical qualities, but without that element. It's almost like it's secretly imbued within it as a result of the background psychic patterns that we employ in our lives that lead us to interpreting objects or people in various ways. So if I think of somebody as like a boss, over a long time, they'll kind of a bossness to it. The physical thing's the same, they'll actually come sort of blend together to sort of unify meaning. But maybe that guy wasn't even my boss. Maybe somebody pointed it out as the boss is the wrong guy. There sort of is a more shallow or mistaken ways of viewing what's going on, either in our psychic patterns or the information that goes into our perception of the object. So I think the idea is that you can sort of unwind, blow that back out, and then still see it, but from a sort of psychic pattern that's more in line with the deeper principles of Buddhism, etc., which gives the object a different type of quality. It just feels different. The thing that was beautiful but used to also make you feel envy, now it's beautiful, it makes you just feel joy, which makes it just feel like it's not a different object. It's like a boss is different from a brother or something. It has a different sort of flavor that's deep inside. That's one way.
So those flavors, the idea is that those flavors come from us. We attribute flavors. The flavors are not inherently there.
Yeah, I'll also agree with that. I kind of think of it as though, there's a certain thing used to be when I was young, there'd be like a book, and it had a bunch of dots. And if you look at it and make your eyes go a certain way, it would eventually split it and then you see a sort of image. 3D roads on it. I almost imagine it like the world and it's sort of closer to pre-natural state to be like what I imagine an infant experiences when they're like 1 month old, or like a television screen that just kind of is like a chaos. And then our minds sort of take certain pieces of information from stuff and it creates interpretation, including the existence piece, including that, that's a distinct object that has objectness. It has existence-ness to it as a distinct thing. We put on top of it. And then basically everything we put on top of it from that characteristic to anything else is follows from the nature of the human mind and what it projects onto things for its own purposes, whether for our own benefit or in ways that harmless contentment worked out so well or become conscious of them.
So simply recognizing that we go through that process, that we are the ones responsible for these attributions, helps us develop more control over ourselves, helps us in the process of taming these afflictive emotions. So, our inner development with regard to regulating our destructive emotions calls for a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, we must seek to reduce the impact of the destructive potentials that are inherent within us. On the other, we must seek to enhance the positive qualities that also naturally exist within us. This two-pronged approach to mental training is what I consider to be the heart of genuine spiritual practice. Did I skip a part? So, maybe finally, there's the family of afflictive doubt, which encompasses such destructive emotions as anxiety and obsessive guilt. I don't think I read this, did I? These are grounded in habitual fear and in unrealistic self-loathing, which are very damaging to our ability to be compassionate. Emotions of the afflictive doubt family can therefore be highly detrimental to our own sense of well-being. These, then, are the destructive emotions which I consider the main obstacles to human well-being, not only our own individual well-being, but also that of those around us, and ultimately that of the very world we share. These emotions fundamentally undermine our capacity to put positive ethical values, such as compassion, into practice. Only when we fully recognize the negative repercussions of such destructive emotions and expose their futility and impracticality as responses will we be able to go about tackling them effectively. So it's here. I think I said this last week too. Often we are taught that, as I said at the beginning of this evening, the afflictive emotions are our main enemy, and working to understand how they operate and working to develop the muscle, the ability to work on them, to diminish their grasp over us, is spiritual practice. That's the real sort of blood and guts of it. And that's where only when we fully recognize the negative repercussions of such destructive emotions and expose their futility and impracticality as responses will we be able to go about tackling them efficiently. Our inner development with regard to regulating our destructive emotions calls for this two-pronged approach. On the one hand, we seek to reduce the impact of the destructive emotions or destructive potentials that are inherent within us, and on the other, we must seek to enhance the positive qualities that also naturally exist within us. So that's this two-pronged approach to mental training is what I consider to be the heart of genuine spiritual practice. Well, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, that's spiritual practice. And he goes on to say, in order to go about dealing with these destructive emotions, it is first of all necessary to adopt a general attitude or stance towards them, a stance of opposition. So in other words, to develop this muscle of restraint from indulging in or engaging in these afflictive tendencies, we have to recognize them, understand how they work, and develop the stance of opposition, determining to oppose them. Charlie agrees.
So that opposition is the antidote or just the...
We have to understand them, and we have to... opposition is...
I won't do that.
Right.
I won't follow that.
So first we have to determine that we are going to work at stopping them. That's the whole, all of this process is the antidote. The antidote is identifying, understanding the mechanics, and then determining to oppose, and then working at exploring how they operate more, and thereby developing the let's say, the more subtle ability to refrain.
So that's similar to the four powers of
Yeah.
yeah.
In them from the memory channel, identify the problem, and then something, and then at the end, like ask for prayer, ask for help.
So you're talking about like when we're working towards
Our problem, the afflicted emotions,
But-
when they come out,
specifically
angry.
purifying from some recognizing that we've engaged in some non-virtuous action. Here, no, but here we're talking not about that. We're talking about, good evening. This is before we engage in a negative action. Here we're talking about our tendency to see things in a certain way, right? This is not going through regretting, identifying that we've done something, developing regret, developing the determination not to engage in the practice again, right? Here we're trying to prepare ourselves to refrain from engaging in attachment or anger or pride beforehand, before.
Beforehand. I thought I seen them. No? Same idea, same concept, right?
Yes, but when I look over my life and I say, I really did something terrible to that person and I regret it, I acknowledge it and I regret it and I determine that I'm going to, that's one thing, that's one practice if you like. Saying anger is, now I'm working at anger and I recognize that when I get angry, the negative qualities of the person whom I'm getting angry towards are qualities that I'm imputing upon some idea of an inherently existent person. All those, it's a different, it's related, you're right. Your spouse?
I don't see him.
I don't either. But he doesn't exist inherently.
I'll remind him when I see him. I'll tell him you said so.
So this is, this really, as I said in a sort of vulgar way, This is the blood and guts of spiritual practice. This is the real, the process of working at diminishing our instinctive tendency to act in negative ways, to have negative thoughts, to have attachments, to have aversions, to have pride. These are this is the real training. And the more we work on this, the happier we will become.
It's like our homework, right?
It's our homework.
Every day, every moment. So how should we think, like maybe before we go to bed or every morning? How should we?
I think that these kinds of thinking about how we deal with our afflictive emotions is something to do in the morning. And you don't need to sit, you can take the book and you can think about it, and then you can think through it and understand it better, and like that.
Over it for 100 times.
I don't think that necessarily helps. I think we have to, if we read it a few times, reading it over and thinking about it, reading it over and then going to the next thing, and like that. And then the next day going over it again and applying it and thinking, oh, when I get angry, that the person I'm getting angry at, if we start to analyze what anger is and see how so much of my anger is comes from my side, and I also to think that the person we're getting angry at wishes to be happy as much as I do. The person who I'm getting angry at wishes to avoid suffering as much as I do, and that he is, whatever his behavior is that causes me anger, is his pursuit of happiness, and it may be mistaken or whatever, and that begins to change the dynamic as well.
I know that I can't get angry to my coworkers, coworkers who work together every day, but I still get angry. But as I learn this, I come to the class, and then at night I would regret it, or reflect what I did during the day, and then look back. Why did I get angry to my coworker? I shouldn't do that. But the next day, I may repeat again too. But I will go, I will reflect again. But I think this actually it helps, because I know I will, always fail, but I won't give up.
It definitely helps.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, in the past, when someone made you angry, you felt justified in getting angry. It was like, that person caused me to get angry. Mm-hmm. And then if over years you think about these things, and your tendency to get angry, to actually lose your temper, will diminish.
Yeah, but also that is right too. Most of the time, actually, when I look back, right, is maybe what the action that my coworker makes me angry. Actually, maybe it's not the way that she did or the way she thinks, but the problem is my wrong thinking.
Yeah.
I took the wrong view, turning the wrong view inside. So that's why I get angry, at him, at her, or whatever. Yeah, so all I need to do is change my point of view in my side, right?
It's because you have expectations. If you don't have expectations, you won't get angry.
Yeah, it's my wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20. 28th, we said?
28.
Okay. So the homework is to work at diminishing anger. So, hello Jay. A friend of mine says, when you began by talking about sentient plants, I immediately thought, I wonder what Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird would say. They are the authors of The Secret Life of Plants. Yes, I discussed this with Peter often. Three truths are, is there, he wants me to look at his wife. Okay. Tara Mantra. When we engage in ultimate analysis, we are looking for a specific kind of existence. Inherent existence is something that can exist from its own side, independent of a designated mind. Existence and inherent existence are not equivalent. Things can exist without inherently existing. Subjective existence is an alternative option, perhaps. Okay, I'm going to read this again. This is, when we engage in ultimate analysis, we are looking for a specific kind of existence. Inherent existence is something that can exist from its own side, independent of a designating mind. So it is that inherent existence that we think exists independently of a designating mind that doesn't actually exist. Existence and inherent existence are not equivalent. Things can exist without inherently existing. We can even say that things can only exist due to not inherently existing. Subjective existence is an alternative option, perhaps. Okay, thank you, Tara Mantra. Okay, so we shall read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, and we've been asked to pray for Judy Ben-Simon,
And Mark Mills.
remind to like. Oh, Darren, this is a message from Darren Smith saying, please like and follow the Tibet Center on Blue Sky, thetibetcenter.bsky.social. Yes? Thank you. Okay, so Judy Ben-Simon and who?
Mark Mims.
Mark Mims.
M-I-M-S.
Tom, I don't know the last name.
Tom.
And Shadow the Dog.
And Shadow the Dog. Okay. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of Nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He's completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He's completely cut the knots. He's completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He's crossed over the river. He has perfected all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the moving rays, sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavad. The Holy Dharma is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavad is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yama, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously, they are worthy of veneration with joint palms, they are worthy of receiving prostration, they are a field of glorious merit, they are completely capable of receiving all gifts, they are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate for the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom and compassion, virtuous, liberating from alone. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate for the Dharma which is peace. Having liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and balance. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. With the determination to accomplish the will of all sentiments, so as to know which is the others will have supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will never think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and never. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong instincts and suffering, as if I had found the precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all losses off of victory to them. When alone who I have benefited with great hope, while recently resting very badly, I will learn to be that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my others. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the eight worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Finally, the prayer for the swift return of Dr. RINPOCHE. Exalted wisdom of all victories gathered in the crowd, sole refuge manifest in the form of the wondrous self-praise, Guru Losa Dojicha. Please may our listening today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishes from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers. Lord of speech and victorious teaching, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of exertion and practice. I will allow all needs to be my guests and unsurpassed present, yet you will rule the activities of the soul that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings the Bodhisattva's? Though impossible for you to think and to abandon your commitment to liberating all beings, we beseech the new son of Nibbana to swiftly return to the look forward by which to turn to my services. Having reached the followers of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come quickly as I arrive at the illumination, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish for the return authority of love and caring. Magnificent vision of the three precious jewels, Mahakala, Kaya, and the ocean of Dharma, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossom of the reincarnation's passion on my face. Thank you. So today is Monday. So there's class on Wednesday, 7 o'clock in South Orange, New Jersey. And then there is on Saturday, White Tara Puja at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in South Orange, New Jersey. Thank you.